Imagine a land so beautiful its look painted, hills rolling into mist, a valley cradled between them like something precious, river that have run thousands of years. This is Manipur. Hello everyone, this is Anjali, your host, and you are listening The Brief. Today we'll talk about Manipur, a small state on northern east edge of India, sandwiched between Nagaland, Mizoram, and Myanmar. Home of extraordinary cultures, ancient languages, classical dance form that predate most of what the world calls civilization. Now open your eyes because since the 3rd of May 2023, this land has been burning. To understand why Manipur is burning, you have to understand its geography because in Manipur, geography is destiny. The state has two zones. The valley, flat, fertile, connected, takes up barely 10% of land, the hills, waste, and forested cover the rest, and here is the tension that defines everything. 90% of the population live in the 10% valley. The people of the valley are the Meitei, 53% of Manipur total population, predominantly Hindu with an ancient culture and a kingdom that existed long before India did. The hills belong to tribal communities. The largest are the Nagas and the Kukis Jew people, dozens of related tribes, predominantly Christians, with deep root in the hills and the kinship ties stretching across the border into Myanmar. The two worlds have coexisted for centuries, but the British drew lines, created legal categories, and those categories have over decades hardened into walls. The categories that matters most in this scheduled tribe status. Under Indian Constitution, scheduled tribe are communities recognized as historical disadvantaged indigenous people. The designation comes with real tangible benefit reservation in government jobs, in universities, in elected office, and most critically, land right in protected hills area. The Nagas and Kukis Jew communities have this status, the Meiteis do not. The Meiteis have been demanding scheduled tribe status since 2012. There is argument which is generally they say they are not an ancient indigenous people who lost their tribal protection after Manipur merged with India in 1949. They can't legally buy the land in the hills. They feel squeezed, but the Kukis Jew sees it differently. If the Meiteis, already the majority, already politically dominant, also gain ST status, they could acquire land in the hills. The last protected space tribal community whole would be opened up, reservation would be diluted, and one Kuki community leader pull it, the hills are all we have. Then on the 14th of April 2023, the Manipur High Court ordered the state government to expedite its recommendation for granting the Meitei community scheduled tribe status. The first was lit. On 3rd of May, tribal student union called solidarity marches across the Hills district. 10 of thousands took on the street for the protest. The marches began peacefully. Then, in the hills town of Chandapur, violence erupted. Mobs attacked Meitei residents living in the hills. Retaliation was swift and overwhelming. In the Imphal Valley, Meitei mobs mobilized by thousands. Within the first week alone, 77 Kukis and 10 Meiteis were dead. House burned, village empty, and families run away. Within a days, Manipur has fractured along a single brutal line, valley for Meiteis, hills for Kukis, an unofficial ethnic partition. No government declared it, no treaty signed it, but everyone in the Manipur knew it was real. But late 2024, official figure recorded 258 deaths, 60,000 displaced, nearly 5,000 houses burned away, 3,066 religious structures destroyed. 3,066 religious structures destroyed, churches and temples alike. 60,000 people living in relief camps, in school halls, in army barracks for months, for over a year. But this fire did not start in the 3rd of May. Beneath the headlines, there were embers burning for years. The state government, led by Chief Minister N. Biren Singh, a Methi from the BJP, had launched a war on drugs campaign targeting poppy cultivation in the hills. The Cookies community said it was a war on them. Their field destroyed, their livelihood wiped out, their church and village colonies demolished during government eviction drives. The government denied any bias, but the perception of persecution was real, and the perception in a conflict is it a powerful as a fact. Then came Myanmar military coup in 2021. Hundreds of thousands of Chin-Kuki people who share ethnicity and family ties with Manipur Kuki crossed the border into India. Methi political groups seized in this calling Kukis Chin-Kukis Marco terrorists. That language, repeated at rallies, echoed in over rhetoric, was not neutral. It was language of dehumanization. And when violence erupted in May, something catastrophic happened. Mob looted police station. Over 3,000 weapons and 600,000 rounds of ammunition disappeared into the hands of rival militaries in a conflict already lit. That was gasoline. In July 2023, a video went viral. Two cookies, women stripped, paraded, assaulted by mob of men. India erupted, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, silent on Manipur for over 2 months as people died, finally spoke. He said he was ashamed. But the question that echoed across the country was simple. Why now? Why did it take a viral video for him to see that 3 million people are living through a war? Researchers on the ground said this was not an isolated incident. Sexual violence had been used as a weapon throughout the conflict on multiple sides for months. Women had become a battleground. The Supreme Court of India called it an absolute breakdown of law and order. The United Nations called on India to investigate and address the root causes. But in Manipur, 60,000 people were still sleeping on relief camp. 9 days into the violence, all 10 cookies drew legislature across party lines, including members of ruling BJP, made a single collective demand: separation, not independence but their own administrative arrangement under the constitution, separate from the Methi-dominated state government. The Methi response was fierce. They saw it was a fragmentation of Manipur as a rewarding violence with territory, and so two communities now live on opposite sides of invincible border, a border no map show, but that every person in Manipur can feel. In February 2025, Biren Singh finally resigned. President rule was imposed. Fresh violence broke out within days. The peace that Manipur needs is not just a ceasefire. It is something far harder to rebuild. What happened in Manipur is not a distant, tribal, incompressible quarrel in the consequences of political choices, by leaders who hardened ethnic lines for the electoral gains. What used language that made neighbors into enemies? Who delayed intervention while people burned? Administrative choice about whose land matter, whose culture deserved protection, who get to call themselves indigenous, and historical choices, line drawn by colonial ruler, categories created by constitution that were never properly revisited as the country changed. What the people of Manipur are own is simple and enormous at the same time. Their own attention, their own accountability, from the politician who stoked this fire, from the armed group who made women into weapon of war, from a central government that took 2 months and a went viral video to notice. And they are own the possibility of future, a real peace process, not cosmetic nor hurried, one that creates space for the slow and painful working of living together again. Manipur is burning, but somewhere right now in a relief camp in the hill village with broken road in a valley home and that smell of smoke, someone is still singing. That is not nothing, that is everything. Thank you for listening. Now I am signing off. Well, we'll meet in our next episode.